Hello again. So welcome back. There's another live with the Brain and Body Warrior. I'm here with Tara, who I spoke to a
Hello.
couple of weeks ago, which is exciting. And yeah, basically, as I was saying to you before, you touched on a whole bunch of things that listening to you speak at the time, I was like, oh, like I'd like to know more about that, or oh, that's interesting, or oh, I want to dive into that. So that's why I figured we'd organize this for today.
Yep. Thanks
So
having me
yeah.
on
So
yours
first,
this time.
introduce yourself and talk a bit about your project and what you're doing here on Substack.
Sure. So I have two Substacks. One is called Safe Passages, which is mostly like a newsletter about podcasting, and I host my own podcast on it about travel and digital wellness. And then the newsletter portion is about the business of podcasting. And then I started the Recomp journey early this year about my own nutrition and health journey when I went to live in Phuket, Thailand, not too far from you.
Yeah.
But for 2 months to really try and end this. Like I've been having these stubborn 6% of excess body fat that just won't go. And so I wanted to go on Fitness Street. And there's two fitness streets in Thailand, one in Chiang Mai and one in Phuket. So I went to Phuket. I learned a lot and I'm continuing that. But I also, it's nothing new. This might be a question. I think we kind of discussed this right before we started live, but like growing up, oh, there's a frog here? Cool.
Okay. I just saw something burn around. I was like, oh,
sorry. But yeah, I grew up always having a couple of I was always the chubby one and stuff, but I also come from the 90s and the early 2000s, which doesn't have a lot of body positivity was not a term we knew. So there's a lot of diet culture and a lot of misinformation and all sorts of stuff. So I wanted also the Recomp journey to be a good trusted source of how to stay healthy or be healthy. So for instance, I do need to lose this excess weight, particularly fat, but the way that I'm going to try and do it is as healthy as possible and to talk to nutritionists and experts and all this stuff to also bring that knowledge in. Because a lot of people would be like, all right, then I'm just going to eat less than 1,000 calories a day. It probably is not the healthiest way.
Not a good way to go. But so I was going to ask you why you sort of started writing about this. You kind of answered that there, but to kind of go on from that, why do you think there is so much conflicting information? Like, as you're saying, you wanted to do this to provide the kind of right information about nutrition and all this stuff you just touched on. Why do you think there's so much misinformation, let's say, out there?
Well, it's the diet industry is like $1 billion industry. It's been said, over the few decades. If you look at the history of stuff, you have particularly before really the internet. You have, is it Joan Collins? No, either way. But Elizabeth Taylor went up and down her weight. And then she had a diet book, I think. Lots of famous people, particularly women. And then there was always those exercise tapes, particularly in the 80s. Jane Fonda, that's who I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Jane Fonda had one. And so people were always thinking of how can I be particularly. I think a lot of Western cultures in particular can overemphasize what is beauty standards and to stay particularly thin. And so they would kind of reiterate that if you're thin, then you're not only beautiful, but you're healthy. And so that kind of perpetuating thing. And then the 90s came along. And there's a couple of podcasts that I listened to that also showed how the diet culture, because particularly in the United States, but around the world, things started getting more into processed foods for a few generations, right? After World War II, things had changed, but it then started affecting people's bodies. So obesity kind of went up, diabetes went up.
Mm.
And so there was all this kind of like, what's going on and all this stuff. And the sugar companies
Yeah,
really
well, that's
that
that's the
one
big.
up.
Yeah.
And that was super fascinating. Uh,
Mm.
and now I just recently learned of another podcast that I've learned a lot from about the advertising world that reiterates of that the sugar companies kind of were
Yeah.
like, we've realized a big thing. Sugar and fat is used in a lot of our foods. So let's not talk about the sugar. Let's talk
Yeah.
about fat. And then what makes it tastier if you take out the fat? We'll put more sugar in there. So
Mm.
it's not going to help make you healthier though,
Yeah.
right? So it just kept screwing people's systems. Now we're now in the 2000s and in the aughts, as they say, and the in 2010s and stuff. Now you get social media. Now we're very much connected, and everyone's sharing
Mm.
each other. And now we're very visual as well, and so people are much more conscious of how do I look, how do other people look. We're getting judgy and all sorts of. We're very self-conscious.
Yeah.
It's now actually with the new Social Network film. There's going to be the sequel coming out, the second one, but
Oh.
social media has been proven that they did notice it would affect people mentally. Depression,
Mm.
anxiety would go up, particularly amongst women and young women or teenage girls, and they would exploit that,
Yeah.
right? But they wouldn't get punished for it, and they weren't going to admit it. But so it just kept perpetuating the cycle of like, oh, we want you to think, how can you look better, be better, feel better, all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And so it just keeps going on and on and on. So I'm just going from like the 70s, 80s to today. And so with the growth of how we can get all this information from VHS tapes to diets, from Atkins to whatever it is, to now everything in between, you're very confused. What is worth it? What is healthy? I've been told, oh, you should go fasting. Oh, you should cut out sugar completely. Oh, you should cut out carbs. Oh no, you should cut out meat. All sorts of stuff. So
Mm.
it's so much information. So what is the best route? And what I'm learning is that even identical twins don't have the same fingerprints.
Mm.
So how can there's no two people that would really benefit from the same exact thing.
Yeah.
However, there's something that always has stayed consistent. They're like, listen, if you're active, that's better for your body. Exercise is good, candy is bad, basically. That's always been the constant. They're like, the more whole foods, the better. And the more active you are, the better, overall. That's been
Mm.
consistent no matter who you are.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know what I mean? So I just was like, okay, yeah, it is simplified, but then if you really need to, I'm trying to find people that I've done a couple of interviews with nutritionists that have a background in like detox.
Yeah, I saw the one with what was her name? Sophie
Sophie,
something. Yeah.
yeah, and she's in Australia, and so she really focuses on the detox thing because she's like, there's a lot of misconceptions.
Oh
If
yeah.
she's like, it can be useful, but if you aren't careful, you are not giving your body enough nutrients, and then you are giving your body, it's not detoxing enough toxins in your body. It
Mm.
was really super fascinating. She's like, and there's not a lot of scientific research to back up that this is a great way
Yeah.
to get healthy, right? So it's not a long-term solution. However, her work has been like to help with people kind of restart their bodies or something. It's very, very interesting. And then I have another one coming up with a woman who works particularly with kids. But we talked about how you can stay, if she's a nutritionist, and we were like, how you can stay on a good balanced diet even when you're on vacation. right? So especially when you're like, I haven't been very good, like I had a milkshake and a cheeseburger every day for 3 days on this like road trip that we were on. Screw it.
Mm.
Like that
Mm.
mindset, we're like, don't do that. Like, it's okay that it's been 3 days that you were a little off track. That doesn't mean you have to be gone, like that it's screwed up everything else, right? But also, when you go to the next restaurant, do you need fries? No, because you already had a lot of milkshakes and cheeseburgers. Ask for a side of steamed vegetables, that kind of mindset, stuff like that. Simple actions that can help even when you're on vacation. So you keep giving your body the nutrients it needs.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of things as you're talking now I've sort of written down I want to kind of get into, but the last point is something I want to talk about in particular, but I'll circle back to that. So, for those who don't know about this whole sugar thing, that's really wild. Like, I've been watching a video about this a while ago where it's like they paid Harvard scientists like $50,000 sometime in the 50s or 60s to say, like, sugar is bad for your heart and it's causing a lot of the problems they were experiencing at the time. Because I think it was heart attacks or heart disease that went through the roof after the Second World War. And then might have been the president, maybe President Eisenhower at the time had a heart attack, and that sort of led to this whole like, okay, we need to look into this, what's happening. And yeah, they paid like all this money to scientists to say fat was the problem and not sugar, I should say. So that sort of created this misconception that fat's bad and fat's bad for your heart and all this kind of stuff. And even I know Dave Asprey, the famous biohacker, was talking about this, where I think it was 2015, like without announcing it, the American Heart Association basically changed their stance on cholesterol, saying like
Mm.
cholesterol's of literally no concern for cardiovascular disease now. But they didn't tell anyone. They just, changed it because they didn't want to announce that, make a big thing of it, and have to deal with all the consequences of what they've said for the past, however
Right.
many years. And actually, on this podcast, it's always like, I'm seriously considering suing the American Heart Association because they've literally misinformed people for decades. So that whole sugar thing is wild.
It is. There's 2 episodes that I would recommend. Bailey Sarian's Dark History. So it's the dark history of sugar is really good. And if you know her, she also is known. She has a great YouTube channel about murder and makeup, where she does she does great makeup and she talks about murder mysteries. But this dark history podcast is the dark history of something, right?
Mm.
And this one was about the dark history of sugar, and it's basically there's 2 main sugar companies across the globe, is my understanding, but mostly in the United States. And they are the 1% of the 1%ers, right? That if you need sugar for your bakery or whatever, or you go to the grocery store and stuff, there's these 2 companies. One is Dominion that I can think of that you'll see, and they've been going on for generations, right?
Mm.
And goes from how they would make the sugar basically with slavery, and then when slavery was abolished, how they would go onto the islands in the Caribbean or something like that and continue. And it's still going on today, where they don't fairly pay their workers. But as our health declined, they realized like we got to get on top of this stuff.
Mm.
And so they would fund the research. And since you're the funder,
Yeah,
now you're in our debt. And that's why they're like,
that's the big one.
that was the big thing. And it kind of makes sense. And also another big thing I remember from her episode is she said that, particularly because they're Americans, they also give money to every political party, from not just
Yeah.
party, independent, like whatever it is, so that they always have a say in their
Profit, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's smart on their part.
Yeah.
But it also, I'd be so curious. It's like the tech industry, like no one in tech, the people at Facebook notoriously like never use Facebook, or the people who iPads and
A clue. Yes.
don't give their own children
Yeah,
iPhones. So why would we want to give our own children iPhones and stuff? Because
always
they
makes me
know
think.
how addictive it is. How much do these sugar people have sugar in their own lives, right? Because they probably know how dangerous it can be. So that's super interesting. And then I had just I'm gonna look into this, but there's a 30-day challenge that we're doing right now
Oh yeah.
for podcasting around the world. So let me double check, but she focuses on the advertising culture. So it was the like Got Milk. Did you ever get the Got Milk ads in the
I know the reference, but I don't think we had it in Australia.
Yeah.
Like I understand the reference from like pop culture and stuff, but I don't think we had that.
So she kind of dissected like how did that become such a huge movement, or how did the milk industry really use it and all that stuff. And so she did the one on non-fat products and how the sugar companies took over. It was this diet culture thing. I gotta find it. It's been super interesting. Her name's Emily. She's really cool. Emily Rask.
But the whole social media thing, like, that always makes me think. There's a great line from Robin Williams where he's talking about the politicians should have to wear jackets like NASCAR drivers with all their sponsors on it. And he's talking about, he goes, these politicians who are against, like, are funded by Big Pharma and don't want people to have medicine. He's like, a clue, Sherlock. It's like the same thing with the social media things where these people who make these things don't give it to their kids. It's like, interesting.
Exactly.
But you're talking about the power of these social media companies. This happens in Australia quite a lot, where they'll try to bring in certain legislation to deal with a particular issue, and literally the providers will just go, you know what, we'll just pull out of Australia. Bye. And they just threaten to like pull the plug, and no, sorry, like forget about that, because they don't want people to be upset. They don't have access to Google or Facebook or whatever it is. So they just have this unbelievable power.
Yeah.
But even talking about the study things there, that always used to irritate me, where what you'll see in Australia on the news every couple of months, and it's usually chocolate, but sometimes it's other things as well. They go like, a new study reveals that chocolate's really healthy and blah, 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 this and that. And I'm like, okay, cool. But they're not telling you it's not the milk chocolate full of sugar on the
right.
For a start. B, who paid for that? Like, it's just, and people just go, I heard it's good. It's like, well, yeah, no, but they're not telling you all the details on purpose. Like, and who paid for that? Where did it come from? Like, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's also, it goes back to basically, like, my dad always had health issues and stuff like that, and he was the one. He went to like basically a fat camp, and he said we had all these nutritionists and all these doctors come. They're like, oh no, you should do this. No, you should do this. He's like, and that's where I get the whole. He goes, the best, but all of them could agree candy is bad, exercise is good. Like at the end of the day, we're like, yeah, I know. You know what I mean?
But it's not even exercise necessarily. I think it's just movement.
It's movement because it's just kind of simplifying stuff, right? Going back to like, what can make us remember, right? Like Got Milk, like it's the advertisement kind of thing. By the way, it's called Lies We Bought Podcast. I put it in the chat. So, but it's what can we kind of think of, or like KISS, keep it simple, stupid, right? So they're like the movement, right? Exactly. I live on the 5th floor right now in New York City, and I try and take the stairs as much as I can because it just and New York City actually has been voted quite a few times one of the healthiest cities in the US, which is because they're constantly on the move. Even if you take, particularly if you take public transportation, because you still have to take the stairs to get down to the subway, take the stairs to go up the subway. It's a long, just like if you go from, I'm in Harlem, if I need to get to Brooklyn, it takes about 45 minutes on the A train, like all 30 minutes on the A train, all that stuff. But it can't easily 4,000 steps to do that. If you want 10,000 steps, so that's 8,000 steps round trip. Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And those things add up. But I also, for today, I actually didn't leave my apartment. So that's 8,000 steps that I did not do. So you can also make it that way. When I'm in a suburb,
Go away.
the frog is still there?
Frog in the room here just won't leave. It's just sitting there, and it's actually coming closer towards me.
Well, see, the frog is interested in this conversation.
Clearly.
See? But yeah, you also, that's why it's going back to the movement, like we're constant, nothing is really nearby in a suburb, at least. So I try and bike ride because it would take too long to walk. And so these kinds of things, because I was like, I don't have anywhere to go. I work from home. I could easily never have to leave my apartment. Right? So I never move. And going back to the technology aspect of it, they're like, you know, those little Alexas or stuff. And also there was, I remember this study when the TVs had the remotes. Kind of change things, because if you remember when TV started, you had to get up, you had to move the thing and then go back down and all that stuff, and you change the antenna and all that stuff. When they stopped doing that, the movement stopped. Like people just like had to move, and point, right? And now you don't even have to do that if you have the like Alexa or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like those are a few extra steps that you're not even moving.
Yeah.
Those add up.
That's
right.
There's an Australian comedian talking about this where he had one of those things that tracks your steps. He goes, I took 47 steps yesterday. And he says, well, what was that? And he goes, that was couch to the fridge to get a beer, back to the couch, fridge, couch, fridge, couch. That was my day.
Yeah.
So I did 47 steps. Like the amount of movement people don't have to do is quite ridiculous, actually.
So it's keeping that in mind.
Yeah.
And I was just talking to a cousin of mine. She has 4 kids. She just turned 40. And because I've been doing this like health thing my whole life, but I was telling her that I started the recomp journey. She was like, well, what if I wanted to strengthen my bones? Because I'm a little concerned about that. And I was like, isn't your husband a doctor? But okay. But I was like, well, basically you need to strength training, right? And again, what you put in your body, right? If you're a vegan or vegetarian, you still need some sort of protein. Check your diet and obviously do a lot more research, talk to your doctor because you know your body better. But in general, I was like, if you're exhausted, like when the kids are watching their program, that's what, 15, 20 minutes? Can you do a couple of sit-ups and burpees? Like body weight is strength training. I was like, lunges from the counter to the fridge when you're putting away the groceries. The fact that you do that goes a little bit along the way, right? It's those little steps. I was like, when I lived in Senegal or Kenya, I can't drink the water, or even Thailand, I can't drink the water. So I would have to get like gallons and gallons of water. And then while I'm walking home, it's heavy, it's water, I would do bicep curls. No one's judging you. And sometimes I would do like a tricep dip, kind of thing. Because after a while, it gets tiring just holding the damn thing or holding it like a baby. You might as well do some sort of thing that also builds that muscle or, strength building.
Yeah. That's small action. You're right. So I haven't mentioned this yet, but I'll mention this now. So last time we spoke, you talked about, I think it was learning to read while walking.
Oh, yeah. I still do that.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I heard that. I was like, oh, I like that idea. I'm going to do that. And I tried it like that. But what it sort of led to was I sort of tried to start experimenting with different kinds of movement while reading. Not necessarily walking. So what I did was like sitting in different positions. So rather than just sit in a chair, it's okay, I'm going to sit on the floor because that's good for you. Or I'm going to sit in, I think it's the Seiza position where you wrap your wrap your legs under your knees, and you basically sit on your calves, on your ankles, and a bunch of stuff like that. I started doing that, and what I noticed was like pretty quickly, the top of my left foot was usually quite achy when I went to bed, and I could really feel it. And within like a couple of days of doing that, totally gone. I was like, small actions really can achieve quite big things. So
That
yeah,
is,
I think I very much agree with that small action thing. It does add up.
yeah.
Because
I mean, if you
sometimes,
think about it, if you just sat on your butt, like in a chair, don't you kind of go numb after a while?
yeah, a little bit, but it's just
So
like,
like,
as
why
I said,
wouldn't you?
excessive sitting's not good for you. So it's like just to do
Exactly.
something.
So with you experimenting and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go and sit on the floor, and then I
Hmm.
can move, and then you're like, oh, I don't have this ache anymore. So, like exactly, it's those little things. And I was telling my cousin, I'm like, don't you have a 4-year-old? Hold that kid up and use him as a bicep curl.
I do
Kind
that
of.
with my son. It's good fun. I just for a game, I used to do deadlifts with him and like bench presses with him. I just pick him up, and he thinks it's great. I like do deadlifts with him. Like I lift him and pick
Exactly.
him.
Exactly.
Great.
It's those little,
Fun for
like you're entertained, no screen time, all sorts of stuff. You get a little exercise in there. I'm like, do 10 sets, but 4 sets of 10, with the kid.
But it sort of goes back to that thing you're talking about being overwhelming, where I found this personally, where you can watch so many different videos about different exercises you should be doing for X, Y, or Z reason. And all these videos have become popular. It's like, do 100 reps of this every day and you'll get this result or whatever it is. And you watch 10 of those videos, you're like, geez, I'm just going to be doing exercise all day if I try to do all this shit.
Yeah.
So then you sort of default to doing nothing because you're like, well, that's all too much. I can't do that. But if you sort of are a bit selective about it and kind of do these small things, it makes a big difference. One of the great things I saw actually yesterday, so for people who are interested, there's a fantastic YouTube channel called Strength Side. Two brothers, Josh and I forget the other guy. It might be Josh and Trevor, I think. They're like properly jacked and they like talk about movement and like all stuff. They're fantastic. But I was watching one the other day where he was talking about, I think it was to do with improving ankle mobility, maybe I forget, but it was talking about movements that modern life has sort of curtailed that you can try to bring back. And one of the things he was talking about was this move called roller skating, where you literally jump from one foot to the other like a kid would.
Oh.
And it like improves ankle mobility and balance and all these things. I literally just started doing it. I do it for like a minute or 5 minutes or whatever. Just wake up in the morning, just like jump from side to side. It's like it's fun to do, and it's like has a purpose, and it's a small thing.
And I heard it's like good for your balance too. They said like
Yeah, that's the big thing
on
as
one
well. Yeah,
foot when you're brushing
yeah,
your teeth or something too.
yeah, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
So like
exactly.
those small details, those small things can make a big difference. I think just to sort of circle back to that point.
Yeah. So exactly, it can be overwhelming, but if we do just like the small things, what was it like? The small steps, like if you can just do one different thing a day, like take the stairs, go down the stairs.
Yeah.
But when you get home, take the elevator. It's not a big deal. But you went down the stairs. There you go. Sit on the floor for a little while. For this email that you have to compose
Yeah.
or something like that, or do the lunges from your couch to the fridge to get the beer, that kind of thing. It's any of, I mean, you're like, you don't have to do all of them. I'm just asking you to do one of them, and see how that feels for a while.
I sort
And
of think this where understanding your goals matters, because if you can get sucked in by anything, because really any video, any content, it's designed to suck you in and make you want to do that thing, right? Do this thing or buy this thing because of this reason, and it's designed to do that. So if you sort of like don't know what your health goals are, you're going to be sucked in by everything you see.
right.
This is the next thing, and you have to do this for these reasons. Oh, okay, I need to do that, and then the next thing comes along. It's just rinse and repeat, and there's just too many things you need to do, or you feel like you need to do.
Yeah.
Because if you understand, I remember watching, I can't think of the name of the channel. I think it's Bioneer or Bio something. He's a fitness YouTuber, and I was watching videos where he talks about like, I want to be able to do X, Y, and Z, and here's why.
Mhm.
And for me, that was transformative. Like, oh, okay, just saying like I want to be healthy and strong is not enough. You need to be like, I want to be able to do these very specific things, and that helps you kind of like filter out the noise.
Exactly. So that's why I try and make it very pointedly that I'm not trying to just lose weight. I'm trying to lose excess fat because when you lose
Mm,
weight, you could lose muscle.
yeah.
And as I get older, particularly women, it's a little harder for women to gain muscle. And I'm in my 30s. So as women get older, it's a little harder. And I don't want to lose muscle, right? It's not a bad
Mm,
thing to have muscle. So that was my goal. So when I would go to Phuket, they're like, okay, so you're not on the weight loss program. That's very important,
mm,
right? And so we had to kind of change that. Exactly. So when I write down in my blogs or something about my thing, I was like, again, my goal was to ideally lose the fat and gain muscle.
yeah.
Other people will be doing something different, or like my cousin who just wants to strengthen her bones,
Mm,
like go talk to your doctor. But from my understanding, it goes back to strength training because your bones and your muscle, like all of that is all how strong you are. So do lunges, do that stuff, burpees, hold the kids longer, all that stuff. Um, but if you're just like, I don't know, I need to lose weight, you're like, oh, okay, you have another goal. That's another thing.
mm.
Is there a part of you that you feel like you want to strengthen more than people like, I don't like my hips, or I am a little bit more self-conscious about my arms or something like that? Okay, well then you can kind of try and target those areas a little bit more. And then of course
Mm,
the diet
yeah.
is very important, but that's why also I'm very much like I have to have more protein um, than carbs, and all
Mm,
sorts. So yeah, exactly. If you know what you're doing, it's the same thing with any kind of work. Like
yeah.
unless for advertising or something like the sugar company was like, we are on a mission. We don't
Yeah.
want
Yeah. Yeah.
to so they knew what they wanted to target. So
Mm,
exactly. Going back to your point.
exactly. It is exactly that. You need to know. And again, I think it's one of those facets of life. It's like anything, right? Where in isolation, no one is going to say, I don't know, because for whatever reason, we're insecure about sort of doing that. So when you ask them, like, okay, what do you want to do with your health? Or what do you want to do with any aspect of your life? Oh, yeah, yeah, I know what I want. But if you start to drill into it, it's pretty quick that people just like have no idea, really. There was a great thing by Sahil Bloom I was reading recently. He's a writer, entrepreneur. He met some young entrepreneur, and the guy said, I want to make whatever amount of money it was, 100 million, let's say. I want to make build a company and sell it for 100 million. That was his goal. And someone goes, oh, that's great. Okay, so why that amount of money? What's that going to unlock for you? What's that going to help you do? Blah, 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 blah. He's asking all these questions because he's curious. And the kid just gave him this blank look like he never thought about that before. Like, really, he doesn't know what he wants to do. He just thinks he knows what he wants to do. You know what I mean? It's that with health, where if you ask someone, what do you want to do? I want to be healthy. Okay, cool. What do you want to be able to do? How are you going to do that? What's this going to involve? Just be like, I don't know. It's the same thing.
That's a good point because I remember my dad was a banker, and so people would always be like, "I want to be a millionaire." He's like, "Okay, well, first of all, you'll be working night and day.
Mm,
It's not easy unless you come from generational wealth, like
yeah.
a Rockefeller or Kennedy. Like it's not going to happen without working all the time." Two, for what? What do you want
Yeah.
to do?
Exactly.
You could become a millionaire. You could become a billionaire like Pablo Escobar and ruin a lot of lives. um, but how, right? Or do you want to be able to be financially stable and
Mhm.
still be able to take vacation with your kids?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Or something, and have more meaning, like help people with nutrition, something like that,
Sure.
like whatever it is. You have to. So for me, it was sort of like no, I want to not be in. My dad had diabetes by the time he was 40, sleep apnea by his 50s, all sorts of stuff. Meanwhile, my mother is now in her 70s. My dad has died now. My mother, 70s, all she has to do is take multivitamins. So I have both genetics. And so for me, that's important. And I was like, well, obviously I've seen that, and I want to be able to not have to worry about medications, or just have to be able to be able-bodied and independent and all sorts of stuff. So if I have excess fat and I'm getting older and it's only going to get harder, that's why it's important for me, especially since it's in my genetics that I could end up with diabetes and heart problems and sleeping problems and all that stuff. Right? Because you're beautiful, you don't have to change. And I'm like, well, thank you. That's so nice of you. Didn't ask for your opinion. But I also don't want to deal with something that could be avoidable. Right?
And there's a whole bunch of things there. So, like, this whole why thing, the reason I'm sort of so curious about asking this now and talking about this now is because this has been a big thing for me recently. So I've become a part of this entrepreneurial mentor coaching program that I do. And that's all great, and it's really good, and, you know, it's a fantastic opportunity. But it is sort of exposing things. Like, well, I thought I knew this, I thought I knew that. Turns out I didn't, because then it's a real deep dive into what do you want to do? What does life look like? You know, and now it's like, oh, well, this could all become reality. I need to think about this now before this becomes real. All of a sudden, you're in this position, like, I actually don't know what I'm doing. So at least think about it before and go, okay, that's what I'm really going for, and here's the real reason why. So
it's a good. Do you guys have you ever done a writing exercise, like writing a short story or a screenplay or anything?
Yeah, probably at some stage.
Because that's another one. Is I took a writing program last year, and they said, I mean, it comes down to, particularly in film or television, it comes down to the script, right? And they said if you don't know, for instance, if you take the plot of Breaking Bad, the show Breaking Bad, they were like, I was Vincent Gilligan, who's done a great job, considered one of the best shows ever. He was like, I was thinking, basically, I wanted to do a show about a man who was so straight-laced, he never did a wrong thing in his life, and do a complete 180. What would cause him to do that? Okay, money, probably. Why? Because he got this is not a spoiler, this is in the pilot. But he was diagnosed with cancer. He doesn't make a lot of money. He's a science teacher, and he has a wife who's pregnant with their second child, and their first child is a teenager, but he has a sort of a disability. So he's worried. And so he's like, well, I'm a very talented science teacher. What can I get quick to make sure my family is okay? Because I don't think I'm going to survive this. Crystal meth. Right? And they're like, how 180 is that? You know? And so that's how he goes. So it goes back to that script. It's like, and he's like, and so if he's like, well, then if he has an affair, wait, why? Why would he have an affair? That's not in the show, right? And they're like, makes no sense. Take it out. That doesn't help with the whole purpose of why. Right? So it goes back to how the screenwriting goes. And they're like, they had twins. And they're like, why? So now they have 3 kids. What does that have to do with anything? Right? So like, it's an added plot. Don't need it. Keep it simple, stupid kind of thing. But then they're like, but they make crystal meth, but the other crystal meth dealers and cooks, as they call them, are upset because his is so good. Now he's in trouble because the other dealers are after him. That makes sense, right? That's going to be another challenge. He's like, oh crap, do I partner up with them? Do I, what do I do? Well, obviously the police are going to come after me. That kind of thing. So that makes sense. So I think it's a good exercise for your entrepreneurial thing. Be like, you know what you guys should do? Write a short story and you got to make it very simple, because a lot of people would be like, oh, it's going to be a bank heist, or oh, it's going to be a love story. And then they have to kind of take it out. And you're like, I don't care about any of these side characters or any of these side plots. It's really good exercise, I think. Also, yes, good job, Kathleen, in the chat for anyone.
But it's funny that she mentioned that as well, because for me, that was the thing that sort of started this whole thing. So my all-time hero is a guy called Tommy Hayfair, who people outside of Australia would not be familiar with. He was a legendary football coach, Australian football coach, in the 60s and 70s for the club that I batted for, Richmond. And he won we in Australia call them premierships or grand finals, but elsewhere they'd say championship or Super Bowl or whatever it is. I remember when I was a teenager, he was in a commercial for Jeep, I believe it was. And he was like 80 years old, but he was still doing push-ups and running. And like his fitness routine was ridiculous. He'd wake up at 5:30 every morning, go for a 5 or 6 kilometer run, do 200 to 300 push-ups, 700 sit-ups, go for a swim in the ocean, all before breakfast. He's like 70, 80 years old. I remember seeing this commercial and I was like, who the fuck is this dude, man? Like, I want to be that. Like, and then I did all this research and I found, that's Tommy Hayfair, and he's a legend in my football club and blah, 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 blah. So that's always the guiding thing for me. I'm like, dude, I want to be like running 10Ks when I'm 80 like he was, because the dude's phenomenal. And he was traveling all over the country in Australia, talking to all the football clubs and netball clubs and motivating people, and he's a public speaker and blah blah. He's like in his 80s and he's still doing that, driving all over the place. Like, because the story goes that he did this thing for Jeep, where they said, "Oh, we'll give you a new Jeep every like 3 months or something as part of the deal." Because they thought, "Oh, he's 80 years old. He'll probably drive to get the paper on Sunday and go to church, and that's it." Like, we'll be able to sell us a new car after 3 months. But he literally drove like 80,000 Ks in a couple of months. They had to wreck the car every single time. Oh, he was doing so much work and travel. Like,
because he would drive to everywhere.
Yeah, he's driving everywhere.
In Australia,
so it's just nuts. I'm like, man, like, that's what I want to be when I'm that old. Like, that's insane. So
yeah,
that's a guarding thing for me. So it's funny she mentioned that in the chat there.
Yeah, and I thought Jeep's like, well, shit. Oh, I also thought you were going to say he's 80. He's going to die any minute now.
No, well,
it's on you.
But it was just, it's this weird thing where average becomes normal, but I don't think they're the same thing. Where you sort of think like, oh, this is normal to like, be less active. It's normal to feel more tired. It's normal to do this. It's normal to do that. But then you see lots of people doing totally the opposite. You're like, I don't think it's normal. I think it's just normal in the context of what we do. But if you do things differently, you can get a different result. I was even thinking this a couple of years ago. I saw Paul McCartney playing a show on the Gold Coast in Australia, and he's like 83 or 84 at the time.
Yeah,
and he played like a 3-hour show, and he's still singing really well and playing really well. I'm just like, this guy's like 2 or 3 years younger than my grandmother, and he's doing that. Like, things are possible. Like,
that's true. My cousin went to see Frankie Valli, and she showed me a video, and she's like, I mean, he's not moving, but his voice sounds like he does when he was in his 20s. Like, if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life, kind of thing. Because you can see like he's not moving, and everyone else is dancing behind him. Where I saw Cher in concert, she's not really moving, but their voice and their presence really, and they're like, man, they do have that passion.
It does vary though, because anyone in Australia will know this. Outside of Australia, it's probably not familiar, but I think it was 2010 or 2011, the Australian football governing body managed to secure Meatloaf, the singer, to perform at the grand final game. And that was the big deal because he's obviously a big deal. He sounded shit house. It was awful. It's the worst performance you'll ever see. and it's people still talk about how bad it was now, 15 years later. Like it was that bad. Like
Well, Mariah Carey, famously.
funny how for some people they can keep, and other people just completely disappeared. He sounded horrendous.
That one, and also it's like, did they not take care of their whatever it is? Like I think Mariah Carey, but yeah, they didn't take care of their vocal cords and their health or whatever it is. They overstayed.
Yeah, I guess a lot of those people in like 60s and whatever was smoking weed, it was smoking cigarettes. Like Bob Dylan sing now, he's like, just like,
oh,
dude, stop. Like,
so it just depends, but yeah, all sorts of things. Yeah, anyway. But I don't know about you. We were talking about how long do you want this to be? I can still chat.
Yeah, I kept going. I'm happy. I mean, I normally just sort of chat. I'm happy just to talk to people. Really, that's as long as it's interesting. Actually, there's one thing I did want to talk about. I wrote this down. You've sort of talked about this topic a couple of times, so we keep circling back to other things. So, you mentioned this, and I was reading this today. You're nomadic, and you kind of go from place to place, and all this kind of stuff. Your life. So, like, a lot of people would use that as an excuse to not be healthy. It's like, well, I travel. Too hard to do this and it's too hard to do that, and if I'm constantly on the move, like, so how do you make those two things work? Because I feel like for most people that would be an excuse to just not do a lot of the stuff that you've talked about.
I think it just depends on their priorities, and that's one of the things that the episode's going to come out this week actually, so check it out, The Recomp Journey, with Jana Renner. But I think for me it was always I love to travel. So it's like listing out your priorities, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm going to prioritize my health and I don't want to, they're like, well, it's better if you stay in one place and just stay there. And I'd be like, to stay in one place like that, I don't have kids. I have a little bit more flexibility, but I also have interviewed a lot of nomads who have families too. For me, anyway, it's not something for me. Like if I can just stay in one place, there's lots of people who don't like to travel, don't understand that mindset, but it's important to me. So is my health. So I'm going to have to find a way to make it work. Right. When I'm from Chicago and I came to New York City for 2 months. I love New York. It's actually my favorite. But in preparation, because I'm still on this, I lost quite a few, and I'm more than halfway to my goal weight. I don't want to go behind, right? So what I did is I already ordered protein shakes and protein powder so that it would be sent to the address in New York. So when I arrived, it was already there, so that I don't panic and like, where's the nearest grocery store? Do they have what I need? Do I have this? I have to go get spinach. I need to get egg whites. I need to get no, at least you have at least the protein shakes or something there. And you don't have to worry about it so much. You can rest, and then tomorrow morning you can go to the grocery store. When I can't do that, but I also packed the kinds of snacks in my carry-on on a rainy day. Like when I have a long trip, let's say when I moved to Senegal for a month, and I was like, hell if I know what's going to be there. So, and it was different. And I always still remember if I see canned vegetables, I always think of my time in Africa, because I lived in Kenya, South Africa, and Senegal. And because we can't really use the water, so to wash like lettuce and stuff, like it was always, you need to get used to it, right? Because you can get sick from it. So we would be like, it's better if you have to boil it, or so canned vegetables, frozen vegetables. I still think of Africa. So we would try and find that. But if I couldn't, I had like a couple of my favorite protein bars from the States with me, like a good week long stash with me and stuff. So, so that I had at least two with me that I had for my first day of arrival, and then I would go on the hunt and look for what I can find. And then I still had a couple more days left for a rainy day kind of thing. That it's just keeping those in mind. And then we kind of talk about it in this episode with Jana Renner. When we travel, you go to the restaurant or you go and do that stuff. I was just in Paris and I wrote about this on a blog. And I was telling my trainer, I was like, do you know, a Nutella crepe is part of the food pyramid and it's up on the top, you know, like with the fruits and the vegetables. Okay. All right. And he's like rolling his eyes. And I'm like, don't you dare. So I had to have one every day. But I was like, if I'm going to have that, I have to go. So you have usually a little small fridge in the hotel. And so I would go and I'd find some yogurt. I already packed a couple of Ziploc bags of protein powder. And my mom's like, we are going to get stopped at the airport. And I think it's cocaine or some shit. Sorry for swearing. And I was like, yeah, but then the dog will sniff it and be like, it's not. I'm not worried about it. We weren't stopped. It's fine. But I had that. And then I went and I would go again, because I'm a little bit more conscious. I was like, I need to look for non-fat or low fat, keeping in mind the sugar, because I knew my Nutella crepe is coming up. And stuff like that. And so then I would have that for breakfast. So the yogurt with the protein. So I would have easily at least like 35, 40 grams of protein for breakfast. And then we'd walk 15, 20,000 steps a day in Paris. So I would have my Nutella crepe, so.
Yeah, the low fat's, that's the, you're right in saying, so what they do now, and I don't know if people are aware of this, but I heard this somewhere. So I noticed this with a lot of the yogurt I would buy in Australia, where if you're buying what they term to be low-fat yogurt, they know now, as you said before, they put sugar in it, but it's not listed as sugar, it's something else to give it that texture. Because if you take the fat out of yogurt, it changes the texture. So a lot of times it's like rice starch or some sort of starchy thing, which is basically sugar anyway that they put in to give it that texture. So anything I'd sort of look at, anytime I see anything like that, I'm like, no, I'm not eating that. Just like proper yogurt and that's it.
Yeah.
Avoid it. Because I'm like, no, that's just basically just sugar hidden on the label.
Well, yeah, and then it's also read the nutritional, not facts, but the ingredients. Yeah, if you can't pronounce it. But I also knew I'm in France, and a lot of things have fat in it, like a croissant, or they have ham and stuff. So I had to be like, well, you got to compromise somewhere. So I'm going to have to, you know what I mean? You kind of have to think of it. And then when we would go and they're like, oh, there's Côte d'Or? No, that is a chocolate. What am I thinking of? Anyway, there's a very famous restaurant, and it's known for, it only has one dish. It's steak and fries. Entrecôte. And my mom's like, do you want to go? And I'm like, I'm not going to go because it only has the fries. I can't ask for a side of salad with no dressing, because they don't do that. They only have, and they do have salad, but they have it with the dressing. They mix it, everything. It's the same dish. It's delicious, but I'm going to have too much fat. You know what I mean? So I was like, but go ahead, have fun. I'd rather have my Nutella crepe. You know what I mean? And then I would go and be like, I might have the steak, but I'd rather, now that I'm not going, I'm going to go have some chicken or fish.
Yeah.
And then, you know what I mean? So it's those conscious decisions. And I was like, they're like, we're in Paris. And I'm like, I don't care. I'd rather have.
I would assume in that case that given the different, I don't know if health standards is the right word, but like there's obviously a lot of stuff that they have in, say, the US that's not legally available in Europe. You know,
Well,
certain chemicals,
yeah,
certain things, whatever. So I assume the food there would just be healthier generally anyway, right?
it
Even
can
if
be.
it's
Lots,
unhealthiness, like
yeah, I know lots of friends who have celiac disease, so they're gluten intolerant, but they say a lot of the times in Europe they can have the bread or something like that.
mm,
So that definitely happens. Um, but yeah, it very much is possible. But at the same time, we all know if
yeah,
you to get it, you'd rather have if you're gonna have a potato, it shouldn't be fried. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah. That don't make sense. Again, yeah,
So I just was like, all right, so that's my compromise. And even though I'm traveling, I'll be in Paris again. Maybe I'll have it another time. So that's how my mindset is. And so when
mm.
people want to travel and they want to stay kind of healthy, planning a little bit ahead, having the healthier snacks would always be a nice thing.
I'd say yeah, that's true. But I sort of think at least maybe America is culturally different from Australia in this
Hmm.
respect. But I think for a lot of Aussies traveling, the big problem is alcohol. Because people just
Yeah, yeah. I don't drink
alcohol, just like
alcohol.
on holidays, I mean, have beer and cocktails all day and blah blah blah. Like
A
that's
lot
the day.
of the time, isn't it? I don't know. Yeah, that's a lot of my friends who do drink alcohol, who are a little bit more conscious. When I'd be like, "Do you guys want to get dessert?" And she'd be like, "No, I'd rather have wine." I'd be like,
Mm.
"I don't understand that," but but yes, exactly. So it's keeping that in mind, and then
Because people forget drinking calories. I think they forget about that.
it does, and because you also have to keep that in mind. And I think with alcohol, I remember something about like drinking enough water to kind of balance it, or no?
I guess I don't know if that really works. I do that if I do drink, I do that, but I'm not a big drinker.
I
No.
don't drink alcohol. Do your research. Again, if you're going to, all right. But exactly like the reason why I was like, no, I'm not going to go to Entrecôte because they only have fries and then they do the salad with the dressing. I'm going to give that up. You know what I mean? So I'd be like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not going to go to the bar. It's known for this cocktail. I'm going to skip it. Or if you want to go for this famous cocktail or whatever it is, okay, but you got to make sure you don't overdo it for another thing. In our talk, we talk about Disney World, famously very unhealthy place, very expensive place. And I probably will ask this person, but she's a trainer I know, and she goes to Disney World all the time from Chicago. And I was like, you would do well to be that person who's like, you can be healthy even in Disney World. It's very much
Mm.
possible. And she was like, yeah, I do it all the time.
Yeah, yeah. There's
Uh,
always ways to do.
exactly. So it's sort of like a lot of trainers are like, it's the cheat meal or the cheat, not day. They never say day. It's the meal.
It.
um, but it's that kind of, doing a little bit of your research and seeing what you want to kind of not worry about, but
Yeah.
also not ignoring all the
I
other
think in
responsibilities.
those situations, there's no like you're not going to waste away and die for skipping a meal. Like, so if you're
Yeah.
in that situation, there's nothing. It's like I'm just not going to eat. Like, I personally would generally try to do stuff like that. If I go to somewhere like there's like literally nothing, I'm just like I just want it because skipping
Yeah.
one meal is not going to get me. Like,
That's why I always have snacks with me.
yeah, that probably helps too. But I'm not that prepared.
Um, yeah, that's the
Yeah, I
other
mean, there's
thing.
no doing that.
Also, I get hangry, as they say. But yeah,
The
good
long
question.
fasting is meant to be good for you. I haven't tried it yet, but I am interested to try like a 4 or 5 day fast because I've heard it's got lots of benefits. I haven't done that yet, but
Yeah, I have a few friends who have done it, and I have a few friends who've done it with like a sort of like a detox thing. and they love it. They're like, my skin clears up and all sorts of stuff. And
Mm.
it just depends on it, right?
Yeah.
I have different priorities. They wanted a reset,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know?
But I
And
think that's what it is. Like it is, to my understanding, I haven't done it, but that's sort of the reason I'm interested. It's like it feels like it's just a reset where it has all these effects that like would totally kind of reset everything, which makes sense biologically if you think about it. People probably would have to go in historically when the world was less resources and all this kind of stuff, where it was much harder to get food. Like it would make sense for people to go extended periods of time with not eating, and it biologically wouldn't make sense if they were less motivated to go out and find food when they needed to find food. So it seems like it would be an energizing, motivating thing to do after a certain point. I think it's like day 3 if you do it. Usually that's when it's just like totally.
yeah.
Second day apparently is always the worst, and then day 3 is the one where you just like feel like refreshed and ready to go. Like, okay, I'm full of energy, not even thinking about food. Let's go. Like,
Yeah, and I think it's usually not as doesn't go as long as maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. And then otherwise it defeats the purpose of it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, if you have the right nutrient balance, you can do it for ages. This was the big crash diet they used to do. I don't know what year they had this, where it's like it sort of worked out along the way. Like at this point, people need this nutrient. So they had people like fast for like a year where they basically ate nothing, just drink water, and they gave them like the nutrients they need. They lost like a ton of weight. So you
Yeah.
can go extended periods of time if you have the right nutrient balance of things. And even what's that actor's name? Kevin James, I think it was on Joe Rogan's podcast talking about how he did like a 40 or 50-day fast with just water
Yeah.
and the nutrient. And he's like, yeah, I just didn't eat for like a month and a half because I had to
And
do
now
whatever, doing this or whatever. It's like you can, yeah.
with my talk with Sophie, who specializes in detox, she's like, if you are with a professional, they will make sure you know what. So probably Kevin James was with a very professional like doctor, nutritionist, and they're like, oh, you can do this. You have a lot of things to take care of. Make sure you also have this that has a lot of fiber in it, and then make sure you have this that has a lot of, I don't know, protein in it or something like that.
What's all the other? It's electrolytes mainly. That's the thing that you want to balance if you're
I
not
have
eating
no
it.
idea.
Magnesium, potassium, sodium. Those are the big ones. I think there might be a couple more, but those are sort of the big ones that you want to focus on.
Yeah. Anyway, well, I'm not gonna lie, Trent. It's now 11 o'clock for me.
I'll let go.
Is happening soon. How is it in the future?
Yeah, good. I mean, weather's there. It's all right here today. I got a frog bouncing around the room still somewhere. Hasn't gone away. I just kept seeing him bouncing around the room a couple of times when we were talking. I got distracted. I don't know, because when you see things, when you see something out of the corner of your eye, what happens? You just look at it straight away, you know. So there's a couple of times I just look because I could just see this frog bounce across the room. Like, oh, yeah. Shouldn't be so distracted by that. So.
The frog is moving because it knows it needs to move.
It doesn't get out of the room, and it kind of saw me and then went the other way and then came back, and then I don't know how it got in here, but it obviously doesn't know how to get out.
Well, don't jinx me. I'm in New York. Rats are notorious here.
All right, anyway, thank you very much, and yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks everyone for joining. Actually, quite a few people.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, and goodbye. Well, good night for people. It's night time. It's middle of the day here, but anyway.
Well, enjoy your day.
Thank you. You too. Thank you very much for me. Bye.